Okay, so Aria just came in with a Play-Doh number 5 out of purple Play-Doh and a Play-Doh star and said, this is how many stars you get. So that's a great way to start this off. Hey ladies, or whoever is seeing this video, this is going to be my a video on my journey with my vocation as a homemaker and a wife and a mother and also a homeschool mom. So if you're interested in seeing my journey, stick around. Okay, so to begin, my name is Amanda and I am a wife and a homeschool mom to 4 children. We have Andrew, who is 10, Adrian, who is 8, Aria, who is just turned 6, and our baby girl named Ava, and she's 2 at this moment. I guess I would like to start off with saying that being a homeschool mother, stay-at-home wife, was never in my future. I never imagined that would end up being my full-time occupation, day in and day night. Growing up, I was the oldest of 2 children. I just have one younger brother, and it was kind of always like the unspoken rule that I would continue on to college and continue on to be this independent, career smashing woman. And if I were to get married, the kids would go to school and I would continue on with my career of choice. And that was kind of always the impression that was laid upon me by very close family, mother, father, grandmothers. And it was never spoken about that there was another option of being a wife, or being a wife, or that in and of itself is actually a vocation. That was never spoken about to me as a young girl growing up. And I want to say that I am a cradle Catholic, cradle Christian. I've always believed, and that has always been there deep down in my heart. Never wavered from that in any way. But growing up, I guess, being inculcated, going to public school all my life, being inculcated with the culture, it's very easy as a young, impressionable girl to lose sight of your faith and to lose sight of what's most important, and fall into, into wayward ways, or fall into sin, or just not to have a clear direction for your life. Whenever God and the faith isn't made central. Now, we always grew up going to church, and I laud my mother so much on that, because I think that was my saving grace, was that every Sunday, it didn't really matter what was going on in life otherwise. Sunday was for God and was for church, and that constant routine, and it was just an unwavering fact that on Sunday we took time out of our morning, being the bratty teenagers that we were, and being the lazy kids and the moaning and begrudging. None of that mattered. My mother always made it I guess a rule that Sunday was for going to Mass and Sunday was for observing the Lord's Day. So I laud her so much for that, and I give her all accomplishment. All of my accomplishments, I know, there's that quote by Abraham Lincoln that, all that I am, all that I've become is what I owe to my dear mother. So I fully agree with that. And she definitely raised me right in that regard. So growing up, I always knew, being a young girl and being a teenager, I always knew my only heart's desire was to be a wife and a mother. And so my very first job, when I turned 16, I met my husband at my very first job, which was a grocery store bagger, and he was a checker and I was his bagger. And well, just stars crossed, and it's been 14 years later, and we're still stuck together. So yes, so I met my husband when we were 16, and we dated, um, not even off and on, like we were exclusive. And so I graduated, and I moved out and moved in with my husband. And at this point in my life, I was 18, and like I kind of touched on before, like the unspoken rule was that I was to go to college and to become a career woman, and eventually, later down the road, once I had this bachelor's degree and all kinds of career success, I would then maybe possibly, think about getting married and having a few kids. But nope, we kind of bit the bullet on that one. We moved out, and it wasn't within like the span of a six month period that we found out we were expecting. And we had our first baby boy, Andrew. Such a blessing. And so we had Andrew, and I was working at that time. I was working as a bank teller, and everything was going okay. Kind of a time jump here, but like a couple of months later, Andrew was barely 1, and we found out we were expecting again, and we were having another little boy named Adrian. And so at this point, we were continuing. We were, ever since my boys were little, they were baptized in the Catholic Church, and it was a regular thing for us to take the boys to mass. And my husband is Catholic, and so that was just what we did. We got the boys baptized and took them to mass. And it was some point in there where I realized that it would be a good idea if we got married. So my husband and I decided to get married, justice of the peace. And so we were married civilly, mostly because I was jealous and I wanted to have the same name as the rest of my family, because I was the odd one out. I had all these little boys and a beautiful man who loved me. So I was like, I think it's time for us to get married. So we were married civilly. And then I was working still, but all the while I was working, my heart's desire was never to be a career woman. Like, that was not fulfilling for me. I remember those mornings, waking up, hitting the gym, going home, showering, grabbing the diaper bags. It was all a whirlwind, getting the boys ready for daycare, driving them across town to the daycare of our choice, and then rushing to work and being there before 9, like before our bank opened. Like that was my life for many years. And while I was good at it, and while I found success in it, I did not find my fulfillment in it. I was heartbroken. Like, I wanted more than anything to be home, to be that nurturing my boys, to be raising them. And it actually broke my heart, within, like, deep down, the fact that all of their little toddlerhood, was given to these strangers at this daycare facility, and of which, I mean, they weren't writing these memories down for me when I picked them up. And the memories that were lost, I mean, it's enough to break one's heart, like a mother's heart. And but at that time, it was what was necessary for our situation. My husband was going to school to receive his degree, and he did eventually receive that degree, and he ended up landing the job that he had his heart set on, and it is a good job that can provide for us. And so shortly after he graduated, we were already expecting our baby girl, Aria, and it was decided that at that point on, we would make the sacrifices that needed to be made, that I could be a stay-at-home mom with all the children. And that was such a great day for me, for my husband as well, because he knew all along that this is where my heart was, and this is where I wanted to be, was to be home raising my babies, nurturing them, and being there for all those memories that are irreplaceable to a mother's heart. So yes, so we made those sacrifices and we made it happen. And so Aria was born. Now at this point, Andrew was still going to preschool, and he had a speech delay, and that was the real reason why we thought it was necessary that he go to preschool at our local public school. And it was within that year where something unsettling like started entering my heart. Like, it was just a feeling, a gentle nudge that this isn't the right way. He should be home and you should be homeschooling him. Like, where I got this idea from, I have no clue. Like, growing up in public school, you know, you always heard those stories about homeschool children, and there was always talk about how they were awkward or how they were maybe socially, you know, behind. But I know for a fact, I had a really good friend in the second grade, and she was previously homeschooled before she entered public school in second or third grade. I can't remember when actually, and she was like the most funniest, like creative, like go-getter, like go-doer there was in our public school. So I always thought that little stereotype, that cannot be true for everybody. Like, this broad swath of homeschoolers are awkward and socially inept and weird. Like, that cannot be true. So I talked to my husband about homeschooling, and he felt the same way. He thought it was a good idea for our family, and all of the homeschoolers he met going to college that were in his graduating class were like some of the smartest. Like, they were the best at like time management. They were best at like self-learning, and he was just totally on board with homeschooling from the very beginning. And I'm so grateful to God for that, because he just said, if this is what you want to do, and if you're willing to put in the work and the research and get it all set, then he would support me. And he has been my greatest supporter since day one of homeschooling our children. And there's many days where I fail, and he's always there to give an encouraging word and suggestions, and even sometimes fixes where there need to be fixes in our homeschool. So yes, so my husband, he's my number one supporter, and I love him for that. And he never once doubted my capabilities. And so far, Andrew's now entering the 4th, 5th grade, Adrian's 3rd, Aria 1st, and the children are doing so well with their homeschooling, and there's no end in sight. God willing, I will be around and healthy enough to homeschool them through high school, to get their degree and graduate them from our homeschool. And what a great blessing all these homeschool memories are to me as mama. And I just want to say, like, the days are hard, and there are days where I am for sure doing things wrong, like, without a doubt. But the memories, and to be there when those like little light bulbs go off in their heads, and to be there every step of the way as they like inch closer and closer to putting the puzzle together, like, those are all those memories, all those little moments are something that, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry for the interruption, but I was talking about the memories and how they're irreplaceable to me, and I wouldn't relegate them to another soul. Like, those are precious memories that I'll just have locked up forever in my mama heart. And there are challenging times, and there are for sure things that I do not know, but that's where we go for outside help, and we look for programs or tutors or online solutions to questions that maybe me as a mother can't answer. And we're confident in God's providence, and we're confident in his faithfulness to this decision we've made as a family. And for now, there's no turning back. So yes, so we're definitely grateful for being a homeschool family, for the freedom that this country allows us to be a homeschool family, and to make the decision that's best for our children, teaching them our morals, teaching them our morals, and our faith, sharing our faith with them. And yes, it's a beautiful thing, homeschooling. And so now we're married civilly. We're going back to the timeline where I'm kind of laying down here. And we're married civilly, and Ari is born. Ari is an infant. And I feel this tug of my heart to learn more about my faith. And so I do that. I do that very thing. I start delving deeper into what it means to be a Catholic wife, to be a Catholic mother, just to be part of the body of Christ. And I start second guessing myself a lot during that journey, trying to figure out if what I have always held for fact is indeed fact. I set out to try to prove myself wrong, And I eventually, with God's grace, it took a few months, but I ended up just reassuring myself even more that the Catholic faith is indeed the one true, and it's the truth. It's the whole truth of the faith. It was established by, Jesus Christ himself and the apostles, and there's no disputing that fact in my mind. And but I always like to throw that in there, that it was my first inclination to disprove it and prove it wrong, and through my research I ended up justifying it even more. So yeah, I do like to throw that in there, because I've always been a cradle Catholic, but we all have our times, we all want reassurance, and so that is something that did happen. So I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and I stumble upon YouTube videos of other Catholic wives and mothers, namely Rhiannon at My Little Domestic Church, and also What Laura Likes. I think her family now are currently living in Germany, deployed overseas. So those ladies, and then just recently a few other beautiful Catholic mothers who are trying to not only live the faith, but go deeper and discover kind of like, I don't know how to say this word, contemplative life, like on what it means being a mother, and prioritizing our vocation as being homemakers and wives to our husbands, and setting an example for younger women who are going to come up, underneath us, and what it means to exactly live that out and walk that. And I'm nowhere perfect. Like my husband and I, like I said, we were civilly married, and then it was in 2018 when we got our marriage convalidated in the church, and it was so amazing to once again to be like living in the fullness of the faith and receiving all of the sacraments regularly again, and just being welcomed. It just felt like such a loving embrace, and by God, by Jesus. And I would have probably never even thought to have gone down that path if it wouldn't have been for Rhiannon at My Little Domestic Church. So I just want a big shout out to her channel. Definitely look her up if you're into encouraging channels, inspiring Catholic homemaking wives and homeschoolers, if that's what you guys do. So yes, so I began learning more, Instagram and YouTube, and yeah, so basically trying to put a system in place for myself, for my home, and for my family has definitely been a way to manage the chaos that is a life. Six people in, a 1,500 square foot house. Like, things can get chaotic if there isn't systems and systems put into place. So yeah, growing up, my mother always worked, so it was always a big longing in my heart to have her around more, to have her home when I was home, after school, and I wanted something different for myself and for my family. So that's kind of what we put into place, and Lord knows I'm not perfect, but I do strive, and I find that fellow encouragement from other homeschool mommies and stay-at-home wives is kind of what keeps me going from day to day, and they're such an inspiration to me. And if you're watching this, you're probably one of them. And so yeah, I just want to encourage other ladies that it doesn't happen overnight. Like following the Lord and being faithful to His commandments for our lives, it does not happen overnight, and it is a struggle. And dying to ourselves is one of the hardest things for the good of others, for the good of for the growing of the body of Christ, for the growing of the church, for our children. It's going to be is one of the hardest things I've ever done, and will continue to do until the day I die. So yes, I know a lot of women talk about Proverbs 31, being a Proverbs 31 wife, or being a Proverbs 31 woman, And I do like that verse, but I also like, and I'm blanking right now, like off the top of my mind where it is, but those who would be the greatest among you must be the servant of them all. So that is definitely something that I keep in mind on the regular when I'm serving these little people, my husband, my community. Even though I don't want to, I promise you the flesh does not want to serve these people. I try to remember Jesus' words and hold them dear and fast in my heart. Those who would be those who would be the greatest among you must be the servant of them all. And so yeah, I'm closing in on time here, and I don't know who's watching this, but I just want to encourage you to go out there and to set an example by your life and to not be afraid. And that, yes, and if you need prayers in any way, please let me know. I would be happy to pray for you. And this is just a little bit of my journey. I don't know if I will be making any more videos, but I just wanted to share this little testimony. I'm not even sure if I said everything that I meant to come on to say, but that was a big chunk of it. So yes. Yes. I hope you ladies and gentlemen, or whoever's watching, you all have a great day. And if you're my kids, get off of YouTube and go clean your room. Okay, goodbye.